Welcome to Houston House at South by Southwest. Rapid technological advancement and evolving business models have given rise to a new energy system. Today, global energy companies are actively partnering with startups to help deploy and scale low-carbon technologies. These collaborations are becoming essential as companies of all sizes rapidly respond to shifts in the marketplace. Between 2013 and 2019, there was 32% year-on-year growth in corporate venture capital investments, and 3/4 of Fortune 100 companies have active venture units. It's easy to see why these partnerships make sense. Startups can benefit from corporate funding, resources, and customer access, while corporations need to continuously innovate and access new technology. Join industry leaders as they discuss the powerful collaboration that is advancing low-carbon energy solutions.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our panel talking about the corporates and startups and how we make the dream team. Before I get started, can I see a show of hands? How many people in the audience are actual founders or work with a startup?
Great.
Okay. How many people work for a corporation? Okay. And the ones that didn't raise your hands, what do you do? Okay. So before I get started, let me start by telling you who I am. So my name is Andrea, of course. I work as a principal for Shell Ventures, which is the venture capital arm for Shell. What we do is we look for startup companies that can help us accelerate the energy transition. That means actually anything that can help us reduce our carbon footprint, including carbon, hydrogen, biofuels, circular economy, electric vehicles, you name it. It's a pretty big mandate. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But before I do that, let me introduce our amazing panel today. And everybody here I've actually met before, but I wanted them to start telling you their amazing stories. So maybe if you guys could start by doing a quick intro. And I also want to ask you to tell me one fun fact that people will not find on your LinkedIn about yourself. You want to go first, though?
Gosh, you got me thinking about the fun fact. So
it was a surprise question.
It was a surprise. So first of all, thank you so much for having me here. My name is Dawn James. I am the Global Industry Strategy Director at Microsoft, and I cover energy and sustainability. So basically, I face all of our customers around our IoT solutions and how we work with our work across the globe to deliver sustainability solutions. I've been at Microsoft for 3 years. I've been in natural resources industry for 25 years. I'm a geoscientist, and I'm what Microsoft calls an industry hire. So I've been doing industry strategy for Microsoft for the whole time that I've been there, leading energy industry strategy as well as sustainability and environmental science. So I'm happy to be here today. I also sit on the board of directors for Greentown Labs and work a bit with Microsoft for startups and helping to really incorporate some of the new niche technology into not only the work that we do, but also across our customer base and with our partners, incorporating startups into our partner base so that we can bring real new and innovative solutions to our customers.
Thank you. Dale?
Well, good morning. Really appreciate the opportunity and the great turnout of so many corporates and startups. Hopefully we have some discussion that is helpful for both of you, and certainly from my experience can share some things that we've been learning as a part of Halliburton Labs. So I am the managing director of Halliburton Labs. We are a clean tech accelerator program. So we're actually not corporate venture capital, although we work very closely with corporate venture capital, as that's obviously an important part of the ecosystem as well. But what we provide is a 1-year experience that allows early stage companies that are working across various aspects of energy tech to take advantage of Halliburton's people and physical facilities and customer and supplier network that reaches into 70 countries around the world and access those scaling resources, whether that be makerspace or wet labs or just connections to help solve problems and help founders use their time and capital more efficiently. So I've been at Halliburton since 2014. I was most recently leading the company's specialty chemicals business globally. Prior up until January of last year, when we really started taking off with Halliburton Labs. We have 12 companies that are actively operating in the accelerator program, and we'll be soon announcing 3 more. And then prior to that, I worked at a leading global chemicals and material sciences company. And my fun fact is I grew up on a farm in Indiana with some cattle and some pigs, and actually got into specialty chemicals via agriculture.
That's actually quite a fun fact. So, Dawn, you skipped your fun fact.
I totally forgot. I guess my fun fact is that I won a state championship in freestyle swimming when I was 12.
Wow. Very cool. All right, Michael, you're up.
Okay, hook 'em horns, everyone. Michael Wheeler here, Senior Investment Manager with Ecuador Ventures. I'll begin with my fun fact before I forget it. This isn't actually...
Don't worry, I will not let you forget it.
It's not that flattering. In my younger days, I pretended to be a sports agent so I could party with the Golden State Warriors when they won their first championship in Vegas. So I kind of give that sports agent vibe, right? So Equinor Ventures, corporate venture capital arm of Equinor, which is a broad energy company headquartered in Stavanger, Norway. And our promise is when you work with Equinor Ventures, you're getting not only the best of the venture side of what we do, but also Equinor. So we're your customer, we're your advocate, we're your advisor. You get the best of our company. That's kind of the CVC bread and butter. I should say that venture capital is not new to Equinor. We've been doing it since the 90s. What is new is more or less the scale, the scope, and the strategy of what we're doing. When I say scale, we've now increased our fund to the largest it's ever been. It's a $750 million fund that will be deployed over 5 years. So the scale is different, the scope is different. Moving forward, over 2/3 of what we do will be outside of traditional oil and gas. So anything and everything energy transition, we care about very deeply. I'll get into the strategy a little bit more as we continue the discussion, but great to be here.
Awesome. So I don't want to make Michael look bad, but Shell actually announced a $1.4 billion fund.
Okay.
A little bit bigger. No, but we work very closely with Equinor, and they are great partners. I'll tell you a little bit about how Shell Ventures is set up, and then I'll start asking the panelists about how they see their organizations in the energy transition. But I can tell you a little bit about Shell. So Shell actually has a lot of innovation vehicles for different stages of technology. So when I first joined Shell, I actually found it incredibly confusing because you see Game Changer, we have Studio X, we have Shell Ventures, we have research teams. We actually start, at the university level and the national lab level. So what we call TRL1, so like technology readiness level. For those of you who are not familiar with the term, we start working with universities. So there's a team within Shell of, people that are working constantly with universities and national labs to develop ideas. So this is, ideas that are just on paper. We don't even know if the science is going to work. After that, we have Game Changer, which is the side of Shell that will partner SMEs with startups. If you have a startup that can solve any challenges in the energy transition, please do go to their website and apply. They give you grants. So it's not even taking equity out of the startup. It's just grants, and you get access to the SMEs. You get access to POCs, proofs of concept. You get access to pilots. We also have just announced our very own incubator accelerator here in Austin called Studio X. And they focus in data science. They focus in exploration. And they also focus on very early stage companies. They do make very small investments, anywhere between $50,000 to perhaps 250,000, but then they can offer you, lab space and expertise. You then have our seed fund, which is different from Shell Ventures, and then you have Shell Ventures. So that's the part where I work. We start from Series A all the way to IPO. So we have options for all different startups in all different stages. All right, with that, I would love to hear about your organizations and how each of your organizations see energy transition. I know energy transition is a term that is used so much, but I would love to understand what it means to you and what it means to your organization and how each of your organizations is looking at it. So maybe we start with Michael.
Why don't you come back to me on this one? Well, I can say off the cuff that every corporate out there has their own net zero ambition. We're no different. We need to decarbonize the energy system, and we need every tool in the toolbox to do that. As Equinor's come to the market and said that we're going to do that through our operations by being more efficient and effective doing that. We're also bringing to the table hydrogen technology as well as carbon capture. And then finally, the final tool in the toolbox is carbon offsets. We need all of the above to get where we want to be in a 2050 perspective. But I should say, what does it mean to Equinor Ventures? And you've been talking a little bit about this, Andrea, what Shell is doing. On the Equinor side, you don't have to be an Equinor portfolio company where we have about 50 of them. We don't have to be on your cap table to work with you towards the energy transition. We also have accelerator programs that we're doing jointly with Techstars, where we take 10 companies annually to Norway, a beautiful country, and we work with you there. We are members of incubators as well in Houston, Greentown Labs. I know you heard them speak a little bit earlier in this program. And then finally, accelerator programs out west in California, Elemental Accelerator, a prominent ClimateTech player. So it's not about just being an investor, it's about being active in the innovation ecosystem, and that's what we're doing at Equinor Ventures.
Well, I'll speak from the Halliburton Labs perspective, which is really a front door for the Halliburton organization to engage with early stage companies. So we actually, for those that are not familiar, Halliburton is a 100-year-old energy services company with over $15 billion a year in revenue. And most of the company's business lines today are strongly aligned with helping oil and gas operators produce their resources, all the way from subsurface exploration to drilling, well construction, completion, and the production of those molecules all along the value chain. And as we were, and so there's a number of sustainability initiatives sort of in the core business that I will not speak to today. What I will speak to is Halliburton Labs, which is kind of reaching beyond the company's historical perimeter, with the thesis that there's going to be the energy system of the future needs to be clean, affordable, and reliable. And so we can't just solve for one of those. It's actually really important for the progress of society and the economy and sort of people's welfare that we solve for all three of those. And the scale of the global energy system is massive. And so our view is there's going to be a lot of innovation that occurs outside of traditional energy companies, but also that a connection point that there's actually a lot of expertise and knowledge and lessons learned that incumbent energy companies can bring to help accelerate those technologies. And so as we look forward, we actually don't start with a perspective on which technologies are going to be the winners and which ones are necessarily the most important. We're actually quite open-minded that as you look across the energy value chain, as we imagine this cleaner, more affordable, more reliable energy system of the future, that everything from generation to transmission to distribution to storage to circular economy type applications and other major industrial decarbonization initiatives are going to be really important to achieve a lot of the goals that companies and policymakers have put forward. And so what we're doing with Halliburton Labs is by providing a front door to scaling resources. So having a lot of experience engineering things, procuring things, making things, shipping things and installing things and commissioning things. The energy system of the future is going to require all of those skill sets as well. And we see a lot of great opportunities to work with the innovators that are going to bring forward new innovations. And what we want to help happen is those innovations not get lost in the valley of death. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is hard tech is hard. So certainly, digital has become a component of almost every business model. Yet we can't achieve the energy system of the future with just digital innovations. And so when you go into scaling materials and chemistry and equipment and getting it to sort of operate to the demands of the global energy system, it takes time. And there's technical decision makers, and there's operational considerations, and of course economic considerations. And so we have a lot of experience with those things and are here to help make the journey a little easier for entrepreneurs.
Very good.
Good point. Yeah, so at Microsoft, we work quite a bit in sustainability. We've made a lot of robust commitments around our sustainability and environmental goals. We focus quite a bit on ESG, the S and the G. But how we see energy transition is that digital transformation is a real key part in enabling some of the levers for energy transition. And we see that in decarbonization, that there's going to be just a very strong reliance on digital and cloud technologies, especially when we start to enable things like IoT, AI, and high-performance compute. And we're seeing this today. We're seeing this across being able to enable a lot of these type of technologies to be able to accelerate energy transition. And this is something that, I know that we talk about energy transition as being a bit of a buzzword, but, I come from the energy space. I've worked in industrial manufacturing, environmental consulting for all of my career. And I've been seeing this move towards being able to accelerate efficiency around energy management, energy intensity, being able to be more efficient and optimize our operations. And one of the ways that Microsoft is being able to enable that is by being able to outfit the field with IoT devices, which, Internet of Things with people don't, or in the audience don't know. But these include any sort of sensors that are out in the field that is collecting information and being able to move that along the network, and then that's enabled through the cloud, right? And being able to really capitalize on this type of analytics, either at the edge or analytics in the cloud. And what we do then is being able to use that analytics to drive these data-driven decisions to be able to have these type of insights. So I'm seeing this in the renewable sector and being able to have more efficient production of renewables, in being able to really be able to incorporate that intermittent renewable power source into power grids across the world. And being able to actualize what that generation mix means to you and me as users, so that we can actually see how much renewables are going into our power supply. And then that actually in turn has a cost associated with it. So we can see how we're increasing or able to reduce costs by being more efficient in how we're producing renewables. All of that has a data component, right? And to be able to perform analytics and to perform that high performance compute to do these complex computations, it has a digital component. And being able to enable all of these technologies across the board and to be able to scale. So one of the things that we're also seeing is that with these technologies, just like Dale was mentioning, within the energy world, not just oil and gas companies, but across the power and utility and mining sectors, being able to implement these digital enablement, it takes a massive amount of computational compute, right? So there's these applications that are coming into play, especially when we start thinking about some of the new decarbonization strategies. So some of these new decarbonization strategies, they heavily rely on a digital component to be able to drive these type of analytical insights to be able to enact some of these new processes. And then the other thing that we see is the ability to scale. So taking that high performance compute and being able to scale. So from a startup perspective, one of the things that we look at is a lot of these kind of, like I mentioned, the big technologies that we're seeing in the acceleration of digital transformation is the IoT space, the AI space, data and analytics, and high performance compute. Right, and being able to securely scale these kind of complex applications across vast networks, vast fields, and across different types of global grids, it takes having a secure and performant cloud. And that's one of the things that Microsoft sees itself as part of this digital transformation that really accelerates this energy transition and being able to do it in a secure way and also in a cost-effective way.
Thanks. And I think you touched on some really good points. I think all of us here on this table, and I think most of us in this room, we're facing an energy challenge. The world's only getting more and more populated. The requirements for energy are only growing by the day. I think we can see with the situation in Russia and the gas prices, energy is absolutely necessary. And we have to make sure that we provide that energy in a sustainable way, because we can also see what's happening with the climate, what's happening with the earth, right? So we cannot continue things as we have been doing them, but I think it's going to take a lot of collaboration from a lot of different players, right? It's not only the government job, it's not only the corporation's job, it's actually, the consumers have a big part to play in this as well. With that, I would like to maybe take it back to why a startup company, right? Some of the ones that we have here, why would they want to work with corporations like ours? So this is your 2 minutes to convince them that we are indeed great partners, right? We're cool people. Who wants to go first?
I can start. We have an organization that is full of engineers and folks with supply chain backgrounds and manufacturing backgrounds and customer relationships and supplier relationships that want to put those skills, those talents, those connections to use to help advance promising technologies in the future. And it's just very difficult for any early stage company to have the immense amount of expertise and experience and resources sort of within reach that a 100-year-old company does that's operating in 70 countries. And so our folks really enjoy engaging with early stage companies. They're interested, as a part of our collaborative environment that we have as an organization and kind of our dedication to continuous improvement. There's a lot of interest to understand new technologies, to be able to bring lessons learned from our own business, things that we've kind of learned over the years in terms of engaging with customers or scaling up technologies, setting up supply chains. So we're just delighted when we have opportunities to allow entrepreneurs to use their own time and capital more efficiently to get to an industrial commercial scale. One thing that I did not talk about earlier, as Andrea was kind of talking about the various TRL levels and the different sort of places that early stage companies can engage with Shell. The Halliburton Labs experience is really designed for a company that's at least TRL 4. So it really is, not really a research focus, not really sort of approving out the science focus. It's very much on a company that's got a prototype, or maybe it's even a benchtop version, or maybe it's a few kilograms and are ready to go to an industrial scale with a commercial field pilot or demonstration.
Do you want to add something?
So why Equinor Ventures is the question, and I think it starts with the bread and butter of any corporate venture capital group is getting the best of the corporate. And so it's a shout out to Equinor. We have examples of we needed a hydrogen company needed to connect with someone in Washington D.C. to help advocate for their technology. We helped them do that. We helped them make that connection. We had a company in the distributed energy space that wanted to expand its footprint into Europe. Help them understand the markets there, the challenges, the supply chains. We've helped them do that. So it's 50 portfolio companies today and many more moving forward. But that's the number one way I would sell it. You get the best of Equinor.
Very good. And I would say my advice to you would be, when you're looking for investors, when you're looking to take money from somebody, make sure you do your due diligence and make sure that you are very mindful in who you're bringing into your cap table. Because once you take money from somebody, it's really hard to get rid of them. It's true. So do just like we do our due diligence on your companies, make sure that you are doing due diligence on us, and be very, very mindful on the type of capabilities that you're looking for your investors to bring to your company, whether it is marketing, whether it is, scaling, whether it is, really hard tech where you need expertise, but be mindful about it.
Well, I can answer a little bit as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
That with Microsoft, one of the things that we see with startups, and one of the benefits with partnering with us, is really having access to some of the advanced technology that we have to bear. And then we also work really closely with startups to build a community and a network. Our startups that are incorporated in our program is called Microsoft for Startups, and our VP for Microsoft for Startups is speaking later on today on a fireside chat, so I'd encourage you to go see him. But we also create a network for our startups, working on our platform, and they have access to our go-to-market strategies and also our customer and market and partner base. And once they get incorporated into our system, we have different programs to help match startups with specific customers and our corporate partners. And I personally have worked across that as well, so that we can kind of line up specific technology with the goals of our customers. And these programs are really important, because not only is it that these companies and organizations have an opportunity to align within the sector that they're used to working in, but we're also able to apply the technology. Like I mentioned before, digital and technology tends to be a cross-sector enabler. So we're able to apply that technology across many different sectors, because Microsoft doesn't just face one sector, right? And so being able to broaden the horizons of that particular startup across our customer and our partner base.
So that reminds me of a question. For a startup, right? Even for me, joining Shell from the outside, right? It is a massive, massive corporation, right? For a startup who doesn't know where to go, how to reach out, what would you recommend is the best way for them to get a hold of your organizations? And then can you talk a little bit about the myths, right, between the relationship between the corporates and the startups? Who wants to start? Michael is in deep thought.
Thank you.
Well, okay.
So part of the Halliburton Labs selection process, so we bring in 3 cohorts a year. It's very much a quality over quantity program. So we'll receive several dozen applications. We'll kind of down select from those to 8 or 9 finalists. And then in January and in May and September, we'll have a finalist pitch event that includes the CEO of Halliburton and myself and some of our other advisory board members and venture capital friends that sort of serve as panelists for those that are familiar with the CNBC Shark Tank style event. But really, it is a good sort of day of exposure for the early stage companies. It's a virtual event, so we have several hundred people from around the world, both from the Halliburton network and the Halliburton Labs network that get involved in that activity. And a lot of times, companies that pitch, even that aren't, don't end up ultimately joining Halliburton Labs or not offered a participation agreement, often remark that it's a very good day of exposure for them in terms of making kind of new connections and getting on the radar screen of someone. Sometimes in Houston, sometimes in somewhere else around the world that learned of the company for the very first time as a result of their pitch at the Halliburton Labs finalist day. So we do have an application on the website to join, to apply to Halliburton Labs. We spend a lot of time talking with companies, just understanding if indeed we can be helpful, given that it's sort of a limited selection process. We want to make sure that we're working with companies and there's a good fit in terms of what is sort of next in the journey for the company, and make sure we understand what success looks like, and then make sure that we have a clear view of how, which part of our organization we would be marshaling in support of that company. So I would say, number one, the pitch event is an open event. So, the next one's on May 20th. If you just want to come see what it's all about, you're welcome to attend. If you want to actually apply to be a finalist for that event, there's also a link on the website.
You mentioned myths. So what are the common myths that I've seen? 2 come to mind. One was what we touched on a little bit earlier. You don't have to be on the cap. We don't have to be on the cap table to help you. And so I can kind of circle back to the TechStars program that we do, the accelerator. Come to Norway, 10 companies a year. We give you mentorship for 3 months. We give you access to the best of Equinor.
Is it in the summer, though?
Pardon?
Is it in the summer?
Yes, it is, actually.
Okay, good. Otherwise, you're going to struggle to get 10 startups to go to Norway in the winter.
And then similar to Halliburton Labs, pitching to executives, we help, if you're an Equinor accelerator company, you're one for life. So we're always making connections and supporting our companies. And it gives you access to pilot programs, capital that's non-dilutive, that we can work with you. The other myth that I wanted to highlight very quickly is, maybe even a little bit more personal to me, is sometimes we will meet a startup that they feel their mission is in conflict with our legacy business. But I get that. But I think the bottom line is we all understand the scale of this challenge towards the energy transition. We need every tool in the toolbox. We need every dollar in the wallet or purse. The goals are the same. And so I think the reason I'm here at South by Southwest is just to kind of promote the best of what we bring to the table and keep that dialogue going. So those are 2 myths that I've seen.
So you actually answer my next question, which was
I'd
going
like
to
a
be
chance to answer too.
Yes.
Yeah,
No, please answer.
Okay.
But I want to ask the question because I do think that it's hard to not realize how we have quickly become the ugly girl at the party, right? Where people invite us, but they don't want to dance with us. So we can't be very picky either. But really, like, how do we challenge and how do we reimagine our corporate brands to attract more people into the future of climate tech? So go for it.
Yeah, so just to go back to the other question, one of the myths that I see within, from Microsoft, especially being such a large organization, is the inaccessibility around being able to broach that large organization. And so similar to the other folks on the panel, we have a very robust website in a portal to be able to gain access to our Microsoft for Startups. And we do a very white glove approach. We've incorporated over 7,000 plus startups into our program. And we have a strong go-to-market and partner and customer kind of matching program to be able to really match startups with some of our partner and customer base. And the second question was around, say it again?
ClimateTech and our brands. How do we attract the people?
Yeah, so, with Microsoft, I think that we have a very strong brand around sustainability, ESG, and of course, technology. And the work that we're doing around energy transition and climate tech, we work with incubators across the globe. We incorporate not only kind of innovative and startup type boutique innovations within our own, adding it to our own technology base, but we're also really looking at some of these strong engineering solutions. One of the things that I was really talking with some of my customers about recently, especially in the oil and gas industry, is what it's going to take to move towards moving the needle towards climate change mitigation, especially given the short time scale that we're on. And it's very true that it's going to take everybody. To me, what this is the ultimate group project. And what I see from the energy space is that we are, some of the strongest engineers that I see on the planet. The way that we incorporate science into the work that we're doing and being able to really mobilize from a supply chain standpoint and also from an infrastructure standpoint. And this is really the engine that's going to turn the tide, in my opinion, around some of this climate change mitigation. And being able to enable that from a digital transformation standpoint is where we sit, right? So Microsoft is really key on working with organizations that have established their net zero and carbon negative goals today, and helping them to accelerate that process. So we have a mission that is to enable every organization and person on the planet to do more. So we work with every organization on the planet, and we help them through digital transformation and acceleration towards their sustainability goals. And like I mentioned before, around renewables production, powering the power grid with renewable power, also optimizing and gaining energy efficiency around energy production today is really important. And some of the work that we're doing around carbon management and working with oil and gas companies to make that strong pivot from not just being energy producers, but also that pivot towards really what it essentially ends up being is waste management. And being able to collect carbon either through technology or technology-based methods or nature-based methods, like direct air capture, and the technology that's around direct air capture and being able to sequester or then potentially utilize that carbon later is really amazing. Also, when we start looking at hydrogen and fuel cell, there's a lot of things going on that the energy space, the energy sector has a key role in playing in our goals towards net zero carbon.
Del, did you want to add something?
Yeah, just quickly. I mean, great answer. In terms of attracting talent to be a part of this. I mean, first of all types of talent are going to be needed to sort of propel the energy industry forward over the coming decades, and certainly, in terms of science and technology and engineering and math, I think the energy industry is often associated with those skill types, and we certainly need we certainly have some of the best today, and we're certainly going to need some of the best, in the future to really achieve that kind of three-legged stool that we were talking about earlier in terms of affordable, reliable, and cleaner. And so just the opportunity to put terrific technical talent to work in really make a difference for people. I mean, energy is an industry that runs through every life in the world, and sort of access to it is really important in terms of living standards and health and wellness and opportunity and prosperity as well. But it's not just engineering and technical talent. I mean, this this transition that we're discussing, it's going to require a lot of creative talent. It's going to require a lot of business talent. And hopefully you're hearing from folks like us and other folks that work in sort of the incumbent side of the energy business that we're really committed to the mission, and we're excited to be a part of it, and actually have very high level support across all of our organizations to bring forward solutions that will make a difference in the energy system of the future. So I think that's an exciting opportunity for folks.
For sure. And I would just add one thing to what you said. What we need in our industry is diversity, right? So when you look at diversity, not only gender, race, nationality, but like age, you just need a lot of different people, again, to solve these problems, because if we're not all working together, this is a problem that's too big to solve. So I could talk to you about diversity for the whole hour, but I can't. So I'll move on to my next question, because I do want to leave some time for the audience to ask some questions. All of us are based in Houston, for those of you who didn't know. And Houston, I'm totally biased. Houston is a great city. I love Houston because it's the #1 diverse city in the US. So that, again, I think it is well positioned for solving problems. But do you guys want to share why you think that Houston is well positioned for the energy transition, and why you guys love Houston so much?
Well, I'll start with one that there's lots of different types of capital that are required to make a startup ecosystem successful, and we always think about financial capital, and I know financial capital is really important to entrepreneurs, but in terms of what does the financial capital follow, and there's several types that I think Houston is rich in. You mentioned cultural capital. I mean, Houston is a very diverse city with people from all over the world that just creates a wonderful, environment of diverse perspectives and people that can share and exchange experiences with one another. So, something else Houston has, and we hear this all the time from folks from the coast and from folks in other parts around the world, we just have a lot of physical capital in terms of the incumbent energy system, in terms of places to do demonstration projects, and folks that have background working in the energy system around the world, whether it's labs or manufacturing facilities or downstream industry or midstream pipelines. There's just lots of physical capital and customers to sort of find opportunities to take things to the marketplace and validate new commercializations. And then, I'll talk, quickly, Houston is really making a lot of progress over the last few years in terms of, really being an open ecosystem where we have the human capital from existing corporates participating in along with the intellectual capital from some really great universities. There's a number of new startup development organizations that have started in Houston recently. So it really is, we do not require that a company be based in Houston to be a part of Halliburton Labs, but one of the attraction points, even for companies that don't end up sort of setting up shop at Halliburton, has been the connectivity, the ability to have a place to do business in Houston, whether that's setting up a demonstration or hosting investors or prospective clients.
Well, first, shout out to the Houston house. Absolutely. I've been working with Equinor for 14 years. Most of my time has been in Houston. The low-hanging fruit when you talk about Houston is energy capital of the world, As Dale was saying, all the skills and experience there for energy markets. Startups in Houston raised over $2 billion last year. That's a Bloomberg number. So that's kind of the face value of it all. But I would throw an idea out that one of the most compelling challenges of the energy transition comes at the nexus between big tech and big energy. And it's no coincidence that you've had the Microsofts, the Amazons, the Googles, a lot of them setting up shop now in Houston and here in Austin. And I think one of the things we've seen in the market is a lot of partnerships between companies like BP, Shell, Chevron, Equinor, and the Microsofts and all the other big tech companies. Why is that happening? I would hypothesize that one of the largest challenges in the transition is data, the explosion of it that we're all seeing each and every day. Data can be very energy intensive, and in some cases, depending on the grid, very carbon intensive. That's a tremendously difficult challenge for us to solve in the energy transition. And Houston offers a very fertile playground to address that. Everyone coming together to do that. It's no coincidence, again, why Greentown Labs would want to come down from its headquarters in Boston down to Houston as well, being the largest North American clean tech incubator. We're a Terawatt member. We want to be a part of that discussion. So those are a few ideas about Houston as well.
Very good.
You hit my talking points. That you make an excellent point around why Houston just really makes a fertile playing ground for digital transformation. And so one of the things I mentioned before is around how digital transformation is just one of these real key levers in the energy transformation, and Houston being the energy capital of the world, it's really just prime for this explosion of innovation in this digital space, not only from a data perspective, but also from AI, IoT, and high-performance compute. Also, Houston, you mentioned diversity. You have the medical center, you have the energy sector, and now we see, this explosion of technology. Like I said, I sit on the board of directors for Greentown Labs. And the fact that they came from Boston down to Houston, it means a big thing, that they chose Houston and out of anywhere else that they could have started their next project. One of the other things that I see around diversity is this whole idea around workforce transformation. And I'm seeing that within the energy sector, within the oil and gas sector. So I come from the oil and gas sector. I come from different industries, but also in oil and gas. I used to work for Halliburton, also worked for an E&P company, and big tech is hiring from the energy sector to run their industry strategy, which is what I do, right, within IoT. And this is part of this kind of great, what were we talking about, the great crew change, right? So this is the great transformation, right, around workforce. And I can't tell you how many people I talk to about making that transition within organizations, how organizations make that transformation towards digital, because we're reimagining how the workforce is going to look, right? And Houston is the best place to really exercise what that looks like. And it's not just the energy sector, it's happening across all of the sectors. So what does that mean from a frontline worker to a knowledge worker? It means that your job is going to change. Now, the knowledge that you have in your head and your education, that still comes to bear, but the way that you perform your job is changing, right? And it's important for us to be on top of that change, and Houston is the perfect place to do that.
All right, thank you. So do we have any questions? If you could just please walk to one of the microphones, because otherwise we can't hear you. Thank you. Come on, you can get up. No, but then people in the back can't hear you.
All right, I'll throw out the first
You
one.
can do it. We believe in you. All right, let's do it.
Hello, thank you guys for being on the panel. My name is Roel Martinez. I'm with the Greater Houston Partnership. And one of the things that the partnership does is we attract and we help recruit clean tech, climate tech companies to the region. And as you stated up there, Andrea, you heard this at the decarbonization at the Houston Tech Rodeo. Houston has Tim, right? We have the talent, we have the infrastructure, we have the money. That's absolutely true here in Houston. But one other thing I hear from companies we recruit or companies that are looking to come to Houston is they also want pilots, pilot projects to actually test their product, right? To deploy on the field, to get real world experience with the climate tech projects that they have. So my question to you guys as panelists is, what can you as corporate VC partners offer in terms of pilots to these clean tech, climate tech companies looking to come to Houston?
I'll answer quickly. Getting a pilot is going to involve, economics. It's going to involve reliability. It's going to involve health and safety. It's going to involve certain performance expectations. We, the incumbents, have a lot of experience taking technology to commercial scale and sort of understand, to earn a pilot, there's going to be a series of things that have to happen, and typically those can't be skipped, and sort of getting those right and increasing the prospective customer's confidence that sort of the key items have been addressed so that there isn't, some sort of, failure that jeopardizes operations or, some sort of, safety incident or other types of quality incident. So working with an organization that has to perform at that level with, great safety record and great sort of quality and reliability record and understands the economics, I think is, a set of complementary expertise for a company that's looking to bring a new tech to market.
Okay.
Hi, thank you guys for being here. We've talked a lot about tech innovation, and I'm curious where you guys see business model innovation as part of this conversation. For example, Michael, you mentioned that Equinor does a lot with carbon offsets. That market seems pretty ripe for disruption to me in sort of how we validate and measure if an offset is real or not. That to me is a business challenge and not necessarily a tech challenge. I'm curious how that fits into this conversation for you guys.
Love the question. Yeah, we care very much about both tech and business models. As you say, the carbon management value chain is one that's critical to that on both sides of the fence. Equinor does have within its net zero strategy a place for carbon offsets. From a venture capital perspective, we're looking at opportunities in that space, both offset developers, the technologies to help verify said offsets, and then different platforms to monetize all of the above. Yeah, I should say that it's nature-based solutions that kind of what you're alluding to. These are already TRL 9. It's about having the business model to make sense in that. We know that nature-based solutions are a critical part of the offset market, making over, 40-50% of offsets in 2021, but yeah, that's absolutely on the table. We haven't made an investment just yet on a venture capital side in that space, but what you're alluding to from a business model perspective is critical.
And I just echo that. We're the same. We are looking into new business models all the time. I want to keep the answers short just so we can get through all the questions. Yes.
Hi, I'm Colin, CEO of Applied Bioplastics. And before my question, I wanted to give another shout out to Greentown Labs and say that we're actually based in Austin, but we're members in Houston. So if there's a founder in clean tech in the room who's not physically based in Houston, still consider looking into it.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. My question is, Andrea, you had mentioned that it is important for the startups to do their due diligence on a CVC or a fund when they're taking investment. I was wondering, what types of things should startups be looking out for when they're evaluating investors like that?
Yes, I'm happy to answer that one. So I think one easy thing you can do, most investors will list their portfolio companies. You can reach out directly to other CEOs that have taken money from those investors and ask them, how's the relationship been? Have they actually given you, added value, or has it been difficult? Something as simple as making a call. That would be my recommendation. But again, I think it's all about really figuring out what the board you want for your company looks like and what each of those members is going to bring to you, right? Because you have a lot of leverage, believe it or not. I know it doesn't feel like it when you're just asking for money and you get a lot of no's, but if you do have a product that people are willing to give you money for, then it's your choice who you're going to make rich. So make sure that you pick correctly.
Good job at Sir Week last week, by the way.
Hi, Laura Barker from Deloitte. First of all, thank you so much. Really interesting conversation, especially coming from sort of the energy, oil and gas perspective. It was mentioned a little bit and touched on in terms of companies outside of the energy, industries, that a lot of these companies are declaring these very large energy transition goals, such as net zero. And I was wondering if you guys had any perspective on what the biggest pain points you see for companies outside of your industries are, and if you're working with startups and sort of going into those markets as well. Obviously, there's a big benefit for you all to have these incubation labs and startup accelerators that go directly into your industries, but there's obviously a large market broader than that. And I was just wondering if you had any perspective on the pain points and sort of solutions to address this larger wave that is obviously coming.
I can take that one. Okay, real quick. So we do go outside of our oil and gas industry kind of remit, because again, when you're looking for innovation, it usually comes from the places you expect it the least, right? And there's a lot of stuff that has been done, whether it is in aerospace or defense or something like that, that can be brought into the energy industry. So by all means, if your solution can be applicable, we do look at that. So we're not just looking in the energy industry, we're looking everywhere. We have a problem, we're looking for solutions. So if you have a solution to a problem that we have, we'll look at it. And I think it's the same for all of you, right?
Yeah. We cross all industries. So.
Yeah, across all industries.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Tim. I'm a student at the University of New Hampshire. I'm studying finance, data analytics, and sustainability. And then I'm working on a startup for social and governance stuff. But my question is, how are you providing like short-term incentives to use like sustainable energy for existing businesses, and then also like conflicted startups? So like why should they adopt it short-term? Like they might understand the long-term benefits, but other than like venture capital, why would they want to do it? If you need clarification, I can try.
Yeah. Did you understand the question?
Well, I mean, we haven't implemented like an artificial like carbon tax on businesses or anything like that. But I can tell you that, I mean, as a part of almost every customer meeting, there's a drive towards more sustainable solutions and what new ideas can you bring us and how can we operationalize it and what are the technologies. And so it's something that all of our business leaders are thinking about because it drives a significant portion of the conversation.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure.
We can talk about it later. Please, I know he had a question like a long time ago, so I want to make sure that we get to it.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Mikhail Marinian, CEO and co-founder of Formeta. And I focus a lot on climate activities and remediation. And I have a question for the panel, really focused around the UN, the Ocean Decade of Science, and the policies that you're implementing to ensure that the data that you collect with these ecologically focused startups is legitimate, and how you're ensuring that trust through that data collection is shared, and how you're ensuring that people aren't collecting data in a way that is incorrect, because the second there's a loss of trust or invalidation, that can create huge issues. And I just wanted to hear about how your funds are working to address that.
Michael, 1 minute. Okay. Do you want to go? Take a step.
I would just say that I recognize that challenge. In that space in particular, transparency, credibility, accuracy are all relevant, and some of that is going to be solved and addressed, hopefully, by some of the new technologies that are emerging. For example, if you're saying that you're sequestering X amount of CO2, you need to make sure that you can prove that. Customers are caring more and more about that, and we need to make sure that we invest in the solutions that help them find that. So it's on the top of our mind as well.
All right. Well, I know we could talk for hours, but we'll go to the back right after the panel so you can keep asking us questions. Don't move. We'll be right there. Thank you so much.